So when we're making these videos,
Hmm.
I like to think of myself as a superstar radio DJ.
Right.
Like we've got in the States and all the rest of
All
it, and in the
evidence to the
UK.
contrary.
Exactly. But that's what I think I'm doing, right? And so what the internet doesn't know is that prior to making this video, you quite depressed, mate. You
Ah.
quite down.
Hmm.
So, I think we could have a kind of like a call in agony aunt kind of show where you could tell me your problems, you know,
I
and
don't
I
think you
could
want to go
help.
there. I mean, who knows how bad that might go, you know?
So why are you in a bad mood, mate? Have you been to the festival? You've been to Glastonbury Festival? You're
No, I
drunk
haven't.
too much. You're
I
too
haven't.
tired.
No, none
You've
of
come
that.
home.
I haven't
None
had
of
a
that.
chance to watch any Glastonbury, unfortunately.
Right.
No, I don't know what it is, mate. I'm in a funk.
You're in a funk.
I'm in a funk, mate. To be honest, mate, if it wasn't for the alpha, I don't know how I would have made it through the month. The alpha, I mean, at least that because it's like there's like psychologists talk about external demands, don't they?
Yes.
It's like a good thing. So you can't put. It's very difficult to put fake demands on yourself and then stick to them because they're fake,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
But we have to ship an alpha at the end of the month, and that at least holds it together, you know.
That's it, mate. It's not that bad, mate. You're drinking after getting rid of a bottle. I mean, we have an enormous global audience. Is there anything that you want? Any companies that you want to criticise?
No, why would I want
Make
to
you
do
feel
that?
better?
No,
No?
I don't think so, mate. I don't think so.
I'll tell you, internet, why he's upset. It's because Valve sent us a package of hardware. I'll let you figure out what that package of hardware might be for us to start experimenting with for our future projects. And FedEx lost it. And when Chris phoned up FedEx to say, FedEx, where's my package from Valve? They said, oh, we probably haven't lost it because we've only got a 0.1% loss rate.
Mm,
And Chris points out that means that FedEx lose one in every 1,000 packages.
mm.
That's
That's
astonishing,
what the
isn't it?
woman said to me. She said, "Oh, it's very, very rare. We only lose 0.1% of all packages that run through FedEx." And I said to her, well, "That means you lose one in every 1,000 packages. That's atrocious."
Ridiculous, isn't it?
And then she refused to search for my lost package because I couldn't describe to her what it looked like. It's like I can't describe to you what it looked like because I'm the receiver. I'm not actually the sender. You know, but she's refused to look for it. So they're holding it hostage. God damn it! It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
We'll get it out of them one day, mate. Don't worry.
Mm.
Don't worry.
I'm not sure that's the root cause of my issue right now, mate. But I'll let that pass.
Maybe it's because it's the summer. Maybe you've got seasonal affective disorder, and because you're a vampire,
Yeah,
you don't like the long hot days, and
it's a possibility.
maybe that's it.
That's a possibility. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think this is like the best opening to an alpha video? Basically telling everyone that Chris is depressed.
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think so. I think we have public personas. We live in the public domain. I think our fans have a right to know that you're depressed. They might, try and cheer you up. They might, send in jokes or something. I don't know what they might do. But it's not in their interests for you to be depressed, is it?
I don't know. I mean, some would say that Introversion's best work has been done while Chris was depressed.
Yeah, well, that's why I try and continually keep you in a state of depression, but with enough motivation to keep turning out the work. That's why. That's
There's a
part of
sweet
my
spot,
job.
isn't there? There's a sweet spot. Yeah.
That's right.
Driven
Yeah.
by anxiety to work like a maniac, but brutally depressed all the time. That's the
Yeah.
creative but productive sweet spot that all creative individuals aspire to.
That's right. Try and get miserable. Right. So moving on then.
Yeah.
Alpha 34.
Yes,
I said that with a bit too much of a question in my mind,
that's
didn't
it's
I?
getting hard to keep track, isn't it?
Alpha 34. Yes, 34 according to my phone.
Yeah.
Wow me.
Wow me. All right, let's see what wow features we have, shall we? I'm going to start with something which is, it might wow you, mate, but it probably won't wow our audience.
It will wow them.
Do you think so?
Yes.
Well, it's a technical thing. It's the issue of language and fonts, right?
Mhm.
You know how
Yes.
our game, right, is basically English, and we do have our fans have been amazing and have translated the game into many languages. Most of Europe is covered. Russia's covered. There's it's crazy. There's versions from Scandinavia. There's versions from South America. Many world languages are covered. However, there is an absence of a certain part of the world in translations. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know which part I'm talking about?
Asia.
Asia.
With the complicated writing.
Yeah, with their complex writing. Exactly. Everyone else in the world makes do with their 256 characters, don't they? And but Japanese and Chinese and Korean and Mandarin and
that's Chinese, I think. Yeah.
yeah, and because there's even one language is not enough, right? If you're talking like Japanese, see, this is part of the problem is we don't fully understand it, do we?
No, exactly. It's
Like,
very complicated.
Japanese have a pictorial language system which is very similar to the Chinese language system, but they also have a simplified language system which is phonetic.
That's right.
And they use both interchangeably. It's very confusing.
I posted a picture of Prison Architect in Japanese on our Facebook page and asked for translations, and that's exactly what you see. You see literal translations saying it means Prisnio Archi Dildo.
Well, Ryan did.
You know.
Prisonio Architectiokio.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan did the words as like pictorial, didn't he? Prison and then architect, and then he also wrote it in katakana.
Yeah, katakana. I think that's what it's called.
Don't know
Not
why.
A katana. Those
Not
are the
katana.
swords.
Yes. No, it's pen and sword, isn't it? It's amazing. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Let's made that shit up. Yeah. So this is what. So for example, I can show you like this is what. This is what our font file looks like in the game, right? So, not a lot of Japanese in here, you know, just enough characters. This is what it was in Alpha 33 and previous, right?
Yeah.
This is all we were looking at, right?
A true global perspective.
Yeah, but
there's a white dot at the top. That's probably something in Japanese, and then there's yin and yang next to it. There's the absence of the white dot.
So I think you would struggle to fully get across the depth of Japanese or Chinese writing using this language file.
I think you would.
So in Alpha 34, we did some work behind the scenes. Oh my god. So back to the game. Check this out. This is our new font file.
Wow.
Right, so what are we looking at here?
Wow.
I think this looks,
that is just...
It's so cool, isn't it?
That is just mental, the difference between the two, you know?
This is why it doesn't sound like a lot to people that don't really do the technical side of things, but, you know, Unicode support, which is what this is, it's really fucking hard, you know?
Yeah.
This replacement font file is, not only is it a lot bigger, a lot more to worry about, it's not actually grid aligned either, you'll notice, you know? You see that the letters, they're partially on the grid, but not really, you know? So it's just a much more complex font rendering system to make use of something like this. Anyway, I've been assured that this is Japanese, Chinese, and Korean characters fully covered. Right, this represents 20,000 odd characters in some sort of Matrix-esque combination.
I just think this file looks very cool as well.
It looks immensely cool, doesn't it? I think it looks really cool.
A bit hypnotic, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So that's in game.
If you stare at it too long, you'll get Sadika suddenly climbing out of your television.
Yeah, a bit of a Ring reference there. Thanks for that, mate.
Bit of Ring.
Yeah. So I can't really show you that working in game. I kind of can, but not really, because although we have font support for Japanese and Chinese, we don't actually have a Japanese or Chinese translation.
Okay.
Obviously, because we haven't done that yet. But we have done some testing. So this is actually a French translation made by the fans, and these I couldn't actually tell you what this means. Right. But they're taken from our Darwinia Plus language file.
Okay.
And we should remember we did have Darwinia Plus localized into Japanese.
We localized into all languages, mate. That's why it was such a massive global success.
Yeah, exactly. If we hadn't done Chinese, we would have missed out on those 15 sales that we got.
You can't translate a turd though, mate, can you?
That's good. I like that. Doesn't matter how much translating of the turds you do.
It's still a turd.
It's still a turd. Yeah.
Darwinia Plus wasn't a turd. It just missed its audience, didn't it? It missed its mark. Anyway,
there you go. So the gates are open, and we're now able to support Unicode properly. That's good news, right?
It is good news, mate. I mean, there's one of the wonderful things about the line of business we're in now is that it is a truly global audience.
Yeah.
You know, and people around the world are going to enjoy Prison Architect, and I hope this helps build the community. I'm sure it will. You know, I'm sure our illustrious artist Ryan is going to a conference. He's going to the Bit Summit conference in a
Yeah.
few days,
Yeah.
and he's taking Prison Architect. So hopefully we're going to see a little increase in the number of players in Japan. You know. Yeah. Anyway, that was an interesting philosophical diversion on the nature of thought and language, wasn't it?
It was a little bit, wasn't it?
If anyone's still watching, I bet they didn't expect they were going to get that.
No. Well, they probably won't get that, mate, because I'm probably going to edit it all out.
Oh, you probably will. You edit out all of my gold.
I know. But this is the point where I switch to my recording of you.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, this is a nice prison, isn't it? Look at this.
It is. It is.
Very nice. This has been my test prison for the month. I'll put the link up on the screen to say whose it is, because I can't remember. But I will put the Steam link up. And I guess we should probably actually look at some new features.
Let's.
25 minutes into it. Well, Unicode was a new feature, wasn't it? Obviously.
Yeah. It's a good feature.
Let's have a look at a new room type, shall we?
Let's.
A nice one. The shop. Sometimes known as the commissary.
Commissary.
I've never really understood why it's called the commissary.
No, I don't know.
To me, a commissary is a military rank. You know?
I don't think it's a rank, but I think it's a military.
It's a meaning, right? The commissary has a military meaning. Anyway, in prisons it means a shop.
Yeah.
So the shop is a room type, so I need to make this a shared zone. It's a room type in which your prisoners work, right? Very much like some of the other rooms that we've been putting in recently.
Yeah.
Like the library and the mail room, for example.
Yeah.
It comes with its own little set of objects as well. Let's put some shelves in. Here we go. Some shelves. And I think we want a table organization. There we go, there's some tables. Nice. And it has an unusual object called a shop front. Now, a shop front is unusual because it's kind of like a window, right? It's sort of designed to go on the edge of the shop. Right? So when prisoners are shopping, they don't go into the shop, right? They go via the commissary shop front.
It's Argos.
Yeah, it is a bit like Argos. Exactly. Except
none of our American fans are going to understand what we're talking about.
They don't have a clue what you mean now. They're now searching for the real original meaning of the word Argos, which is...
I know, something like Greek god, isn't it? The Greek god of catalogues.
Exactly, the Greek god of buying cheap shit and on Saturday. So you have to assign prisoners to work. So I put a guard in there. So if you go to your logistics screen, let's add some prison labour in there. All right, so like many of the recent rooms that we've been putting in, it has its own its own little sort of logistics chain, you know,
right?
Its own little chain of stuff. So these are the things that are arriving. These are shop goods, stacks and stacks of shop goods from Ryan. So you can see in there is
pornography.
Pornography, yeah, that's the first thing.
Is there really pornography?
Yeah, there's grot mags, yeah, in there.
Brilliant.
There is food, snacks, crisps, drinks, Pringles. Oh, sorry, brand. Can't say brands.
Say brands. Generic commercial entity.
Generic brand salt and vinegar crisps that come in a tube.
Well, it will be generic brand because it won't be.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get Pringles, I didn't think, unless it's Christmas.
Yeah. And there is soap, deodorant.
Don't drop the soap.
Yeah, don't drop this soap. Oh, fuck's sake.
That wasn't funny. Cut that out.
Yeah,
Cut that out.
I will. I'm cutting all you out, mate. No one's even going to be able to hear you, right?
Why did I buy this microphone off you? It doesn't even work, does it? It's just an empty shell.
Yeah. What else is there? Towels, blankets.
Yeah.
Comfort things, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Pillows, posters. Can you buy posters?
I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so what generally happens is I need to accelerate time to when it's in use.
You've missed a trick if you can't buy posters because posters are used to cover up your escape tunnel.
Ah, good point. Yeah, good point. I didn't think of that actually. Interestingly, let's put some work time in.
Do you remember when we first went to uni and they had the shop? They had the poster shop.
Yeah, I remember that. And you could buy all those sort of Quentin Tarantino posters and stuff, couldn't you?
It was such like you went and like talk about like learning who you are and defining yourself.
Yeah.
You go to the shop and look at all the pictures and think, right, which of these posters defines me? Am I going to put on my wall really big so that when anyone comes into my hall room,
yeah,
they're going to think, oh, He likes Pulp Fiction. He must be cool.
Well, that's what everyone did. Everyone bought the Pulp Fiction poster, didn't they? Of the two of them with the guns.
Yeah.
Or the Reservoir Dogs picture with them all in the suits and stuff in the black and white image.
Because they're very cool these pictures as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they were. So, right, so our first prisoners start working here, and the first thing they do is they start unloading all the shop goods out of those crates onto our shelves. Right?
Yeah.
Because it has to be sorted onto the shelves before it's really usable. And then you can see this guy here is working and operating the shop front. So he's sat on the shop front, bored out of his mind, as they always are in the movies, right?
Yeah.
Just waiting. Now, no one's going to come to the shop yet, because no one has any money yet. Right? But you can see that because these guys are working for the first time ever, they're actually earning money. Right. If I highlight this guy, see in his little tooltip it says cash going up, $1.83, $1.85. They earn about 50 cents an hour.
Okay.
Right, that's their rate.
So even though we're not in America, you've chosen to use American currency.
Well, we've used American currency since the start of the game. Right?
I guess.
Cash flow, the finance and everything has always been in dollars. Unless you want me to name the whole thing. Here we go, this guy's shopping. Unless you want me to rename everything to generic credits or something.
Generic credits.
Yeah, I mean, also the dollar isn't only used in America. Right?
That is true.
That's an Americanist view of the world. Just because we use the dollar, that means it's set in America? No,
it doesn't. There are other dollars. So do they get paid for all the other jobs that they can do in the prison, working in the kitchen?
Yes. Now? So any prison labour, anytime a prisoner is employed, even if he's stood around doing cock all. Right? Yeah. So if you've over-assigned, there's too many guys in this room, you can see a lot of them are idle. They're still getting paid for being in there. And it's like an inefficiency that you can try and stamp out. There's not very much.
Did you model that on your last month's work at Introversion?
Oh, thanks for that, mate. Thanks for that.
That was a better joke.
It's not very much 50 cents an hour, but over the scale of all of your prisoners who might be working at any one time, could be a lot,
Yeah.
I don't know why there aren't more people in here. And it's something you have to keep an eye on. You can't control how much you pay them yet, and you can't control how much items cost yet. But those are interesting variables that prisons play around with. What might not be commonly known is, because I did some research on this, commissaries are often privately run, even in state prisons.
Yeah.
And the markups in them are in the order of 10 times the real world price.
Mm-hmm.
So a drink might be £5 or $5.
Yeah.
And the amount that prisoners are paid, 50 cents, is actually quite a good wage as far as prisoners are concerned. There's actually a movement at the moment. There is discussion that prisoners should be due the minimum wage in the UK by law.
Well,
the minimum wage is about $10 in the UK. Yeah. And they're currently paid prisoners are currently paid like 30 cents per hour. So it'll be a massive, massive increase.
I remember my view when we started out making Prison Architect was that yes, prisoners should be put to work. And, no, they shouldn't really be paid. And then I watched that amazing kind of web documentary talking about it and criticising it. And it kind of changed my mind a little bit. This concept of slave labour.
Yeah.
You have to manage that very carefully, the balance between they are in prison.
Yeah.
And working is probably good for some prisoners in prison. Help good self-esteem as long as they're training and they're gaining more skills and things. Mm. But this idea that a company could move all of its operations to a prison because it's cheaper, for stamping out number plates, that's very bad for an economy because that's going to put
It's very bad. It's artificial because they're circumventing all the labour laws that would typically exist. So if you underpay your prisoners in the order of 50 cents per hour, you're kind of wrecking the outer economy because you're going to cause unemployment and you're going to cause businesses to fail outside of the prison because prison labour suddenly undercuts everything.
And it's actually worse than that because the companies might then want a stronger prison population.
Yeah.
So there's a commercial imperative to start moving your population into prison because commercially you can work them for longer and pay them less. So there are very interesting arguments around the whole.
There's a corollary to that though, which is that if you pay the minimum wage, right, which is like $10 instead of 50 cents, that's 20 times more money. Right? Yeah. That's all state money, right? That's all tax-raised state money that's being paid. Yeah. So that also has its effect on the economy, right? That's money that could have been spent in other causes, you know.
That's right. That's right.
And it's a lot of money. Right? You've got a lot of prisoners, and if they're all going to get the minimum wage, you're potentially looking at a significant cost. I mean, like in America, you know, if famously something like 1 in every 100 Americans is in prison. You know, it's like 1% of the population
I heard
is incarcerated. You know,
what, 5% of the global population and 25%, or I don't know, something like that.
Exactly.
I don't know what I just
right.
said.
So if you imagine, you know, suddenly incurring a burden of a minimum wage payment on 1% of the population of America, you're talking about a vast expense. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting. There's no clear answer on that. I'm not really sure what the answer is.
Well, that's the thing about this, isn't it? That there's no clear answers on many of these issues.
But I wanted to make it. I did from a gameplay point of view. I never liked the fact that it cost you nothing to employ your prisoners. Right?
Yeah.
Just from a pure gameplay standpoint, that was too unbalanced to me. That you could sack all your gianters and get prisoners to do it for no cost. So now at least there is a cost, right? Albeit a lower one. It shows up in your finance sheet. If you look in, here we go. Prisoner wages yesterday. Right? $334. Right. And we only started quite late in the day, so that will be a lot higher tomorrow. And then here you can see the shop revenue, only $10. So in the game, items in the shop all cost $5 per item. And they make 50 cents per hour. So a single purchase represents 10 hours of work for a prisoner, which seems to be about the right ratio to me. But I think we'll probably in future let you change it. Because in theory, these prison shops are actually extremely profitable enterprises.
Well, should they? Is it not going to just balance out? Unless the money, I guess, when there's going to be leakage, right? When a prisoner leaves, he might have money in his pocket.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily, because also prisoners get given money during visitation. So in the real world, families can send money to prisoners up to a certain amount. We model it in the game that when a prisoner gets a visitor from his family, he receives more money in his pocket. Right? So he might get given $5 or $10 then. So there is money coming in, right, which you haven't spent out of your own pocket. And you can take that money off the prisoners via a shop. And it does happen. Like in the real world, those shops are very profitable enterprises, and they do make a profit from their prisoners. And they justify it by saying very legitimate things, which is that the cost to run a shop in a prison is actually very high. The security requirements are very high, and the exact choice of materials is very high. And all of those things are... And it's not like a shop front where you can put it on a high street and turn a profit from people walking past. Because it's a prison, because it's an enclosed society. They have to be compensated for for going to the efforts of setting up a shop in the first place. It's basically capitalism gone mad. That's what it essentially is. You know, it's the capitalist argument for charging money to your inmates. The shop has a purpose, which is that it's a needs provider. Right? It's a general purpose needs provider. So all those things I told you about that you could buy from a shop, they directly relate to the needs. So they can buy snacks if they're starving hungry. They can buy blankets and pillows and things for comfort. Environment, clean underwear, that kind of thing. They can buy soap, which goes to hygiene. And what else could they buy? Grot and stuff like that, pornography and magazines generally, and that's like entertainment and recreation and comfort.
No one likes to have massive balls, do they?
Exactly. Oh, Jesus Christ! That's an image I just don't want at the moment, quite frankly. All right, so it's a needs provider, right? So it's actually quite a good vent, right? If your prison is struggling to keep, and this is a good prison, it doesn't really have any major problems, but if you're struggling to satisfy all the needs of your prisons, a shop is actually a good way to do it. There's an additional, there's a further benefit on top of all that, slightly more subtle. You know that a lot of jobs in the prison require training, like working in the kitchen, for example, requires you have to do that as a training course, don't you? Prison kitchen hygiene and stuff like that. And the workshop requires workshop safety induction. So prisoners always have a concentration level in those courses, and it's usually pretty shit. They actually work harder, they actually concentrate harder, and they're more likely to sign up for voluntary training courses like that if there is the possibility of a shop where they can buy things. So because if there's going to be a shop where they can buy things, they're going to want money. And if they're going to want money, they're going to want those training courses because they lead to the jobs that are going to get them paid. Understand?
I do understand.
So it has that net benefit. Cool
Brilliant.
shit.
Brilliant. It is cool.
All right. Let's talk about the main feature, that I've been working on.
Okay.
The main feature. Now I have to caveat all this. This main feature is a big one. Right? It's a big one, but I haven't finished it this month. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
But this is part 1 of the main feature.
Yeah.
The feature in question is the last big ticket item on our list, and it is gangs.
Yeah.
Prison gangs.
Brilliant.
Now, gangs have been something that I've had in consideration since before Alpha 1. In fact, I seem to remember, I remember you playing a build that had gang warfare long before the game was even public. And we've never really been able to solve it until now, because gangs fuck your prison. There's no other way of saying it, right? They fuck your prison good. And so they are optional, right? So the first thing I'm going to say is that in the create new prison screen, there's now this tick box, gangs, and you may tick it or not at will. Right? You could think of it as extra difficulty level,
right?
Because that's what it is. But at the moment, I didn't want to just turn it on for everyone's prison, because you can't imagine the carnage.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Well, in our intake, I'm going to turn on the intake because it was turned off at this prison. From now onwards, if gangs are turned on, when you do an intake, you will start to receive, some of your prisoners will be gang members. Right? So let's bring in 100 maximum security prisoners. Maximum security prisoners, dangerous prisoners, are more likely to be gang members than medium security, and low security prisoners are not likely to be gang members.
Makes sense.
So let's accelerate time a little bit and wait for some prisoners to arrive and hope that the gods of randomness are smiling upon us.
Do you know, I'm actually nervous now.
Are you?
This is what happens with Prison Architect. Like when we did the execution work,
you
know, I'm actually, in my stomach is now a nervous feeling that we're going to get some gang members and they're gonna start shanking people.
Well, that's...
Thank God that you've hired a load more guards.
That's what they do. Well, I've noticed there's a reception room and no guards hanging around, so we're going to need some guards to help us out. All right, let's have a look. So I've got a new intelligence screen. So now, under bureaucracy, if you remember, there was this under security, there was intelligence. It used to be called contraband, right? It was intelligence about where all the contraband was in your prison. Well, now it also unlocks your gang intelligence view.
Right.
So under intelligence, we see gangs.
Gotta keep the devil down in his hole.
Thanks for that, mate.
That's right.
Do you want to sing some more?
I don't know anymore. It's been so long since I've seen The Wire.
We've got one gang member.
Right. Look at those tats, man. Look at that.
Look at his face tats.
Look at him.
Right.
That is awesome.
Right, let's see. Hopefully they'll strip search him. Strip search him. Strip search him. There he is.
There he is.
There's his gang tattooed body.
He's got his ink, man. He's made his ink.
He's got his ink. All right.
He knows what he's doing. That's why he's hiding under the CCTV camera.
Yeah. We've got 3 more actually in the next lot, and these are right. So you can see. So gangs. So we've got 2 gangs already in the prison. This gang. So if you highlight them, it shows you their gang affiliated tattoo. This is their face tattoo. Right. So all the gang members that belong to this gang will have this tattoo. So you'll be able to recognize them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they're quite intimidating looking, aren't they, straight away? I mean, it's just interesting how a full body tattoo has that effect. Now these, you remember I was telling you that this isn't all there is for gangs, right? Gangs is such a big system. It's such a big change to the game. And the possibilities for what gangs are going to do in your prison is beyond the scope of this alpha.
Yeah.
Right? And to some extent, I am setting up a debt here to myself for future alphas, right, which I may regret at a later time.
We've never made a promise about Prison Architect, and now you're doing it.
And now I'm doing it, and yeah, maybe insanity has taken over in the last few alphas. I've never promised something in a subsequent alpha, but this time I am implicitly making a promise. These guys.
Well, I mean, just as an aside, though, there's not many games where you can develop a complete and decent feature within 30 days.
Yeah.
And you've done that consistently for the last 33 months.
It has been kind of nuts, actually.
Which has been astonishing me, because almost always something goes wrong. There's a bit of complexity that we can't quite fit in that period of time. So the fact that you've done it so well, mate, I don't think you've got anything to apologise for.
Oh, thanks, mate.
That's all right, bud.
No, that's nice for you to say. So these guys, they're the soldiers, all right?
Right.
In a gang. I watched a lot of documentaries about prison gangs. It's fucking nuts.
Is that why you're depressed?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. It's absolutely nuts. The structure that goes into these organizations and the I don't want to use the word professionalism because that's not quite the right word. But they're entrepreneurial activities, and they're very, very powerful entities in their own right. But none of that is reflected in this alpha. These guys are the soldiers. They're the bottom-ranked gang members. Now, what will happen is they'll hang out together, right? They'll tend to hang out together anyway. The biggest change in this alpha is that if they get into trouble, if a gang member gets into a fight, all of the other members of his gang nearby will wade in to that fight. And that might not sound like much, but that is actually devastating to the security of your prison, because that means that if your gang member gets really pissed off because your prison is shit and he's starving hungry and starts trashing his cell, and then a guard comes in and starts fighting him to try and get him to calm down, all the other gang members who are probably nearby will jump that guard and kick the shit out of him, and then they'll stop. Right? They essentially stick up for each other.
Yeah.
If you get two rival gang members who meet up in the yard and decide to have a little bit of a punch-up, all the gang members from the first gang will join in, and then all the gang members from the second gang will join in. Right. Causing an absolutely massive gang ruckus. Now, it obviously depends on how many gang members you actually have in your prison at any one time.
Yeah.
I've stacked it a bit because, I made the intake. I made us bring in 100 maximum security prisoners in one batch.
Yeah.
And I think currently 15%, I've set it as, of all max security prisoners are gang members.
Right.
I saw this article that in some prisons in America, it's like 80%.
Right.
It's just continuous. Every single person that came in was either a gang member as they came in or a gang member within a week of arriving.
Right.
That was basically how it went. So that's kind of the extent of what I've done this month, right?
Okay. Well, I think the reason that we've struggled so much with gangs is it's because the first time... The reason I think you've struggled with it is because in order for gangs to be realistic, it requires cooperation of prisoners in some way, right? There has to be cooperation. And up to this point, each prisoner has just been its own entity doing its own thing.
Quite right.
And what we've done is what we're moving toward with gangs is a hierarchy, a structure,
a militia,
which requires a militia. Well,
organized
just
militia.
From a technical point of view, it's a next step up in the hierarchy on AI, right?
Yeah, you're quite right. You're quite right. You hit the nail on the head. The whole game, one of the fundamental AI tenets of the game is a concept of bottom-up, micro-style AI. In other words, every entity is kind of responsible for his own bidding and just does his own thing. And you do get larger scale movements happening, but they're not really caused by a larger scale AI. Whereas a gang, in its ultimate endpoint, is kind of an entity in its own right,
That's it.
It's an AI entity in its own right.
That's right, driving all these different components. Yeah. And I watched an interesting TED lecture. I've been watching a lot of TED recently about Google's driverless car. And the guy started out by saying that driver assistance systems will never amalgamate into a driverless car. Right. You can't do that. You can't take automatic braking, parking sensors,
because that's the bottom-up approach to AI.
Exactly. You can't just incrementally improve those until you have a driverless car. You have to have a driverless car at the start.
Yeah.
Because there's a zone that you go through where it looks as if all of the driver aids are driving the car, but in fact they're not safe to do so. So you as a human being get bored in the driver's seat and start messing around with your phone or whatever, and then you crash because the system is not at the safe level. Whereas actually it has to be a top-down approach to make it work. And that's a whole new level of AI.
You need an AI that's actually the driver.
And I think that what you need to do, I think you've done this in exactly the right way, is you need to put the components in
Yeah.
to begin with and make sure the components are all working, and that will enable a higher level AI to start utilizing these components into a coherent sort of objective for
Yeah,
that
that's right.
gang
That's right.
gang entity.
And that's kind of how it is. And the thing is that the gang stuff was never going to work first time outright anyway, because
Yeah,
you need a grounding of a lot of soldiers before a gang can meaningfully do anything. You can't have a hierarchy unless you have a batch of soldiers. So to some extent, you need a bit of time anyway to let gang soldiers gradually flood into your prison and build up their number before you can start to do anything more complex with their AI anyway.
yeah,
But it's going to be very interesting to see. They're going to be some brave players. I think they're going to be on the front line of some seriously dangerous shit in subsequent alphas. I think as a result of this, because there's no other organization in the game, as you say, that does any kind of high level planning, and it's going to be hard to tackle. And you can't, it's the interesting thing about gangs that I noticed in a lot of the documentaries. It's not like drugs where you can just confiscate them.
yeah,
And it's not like weapons where you can just search and confiscate. You can't ban people from joining gangs. It doesn't work like that. They just say they're joining a gang.
Yeah.
And you can't just kick them out of the prison. You can't say all gang membership is illegal.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. So it's one of the first problems that the player will have to face in the game, that they'll have to manage, but they'll never be able to fully treat,
Right, we better finish this off, haven't we?
Yeah.
That is the Alpha 34 video. Come and join us on Facebook. Love you lots. See you in a month.